That Christmas Eve, I understood that a mother's love can be used as a weapon against her. My name is Eleanor Benson. I am 65 years old, and this is the story I never thought I would tell, because it hurts to admit that your own son allowed you to be humiliated on the most sacred night of the year. I still remember the sound of the key turning in the lock from the outside. Click. And then her voice cold, calculated. "I just want my family at the table, Eleanor. You should rest." From the other side of that door, I heard the laughter, the clinking of glasses, the aroma of the turkey that I had spent hours preparing, the voices of my grandchildren asking for me, and her response sweet and deceitful. "Grandma is tired, sweetie. She already ate." I sat on the edge of the bed. My hands were trembling, not from fear, but from contained rage, from humiliation, from a sadness so deep it didn't even have a name. On the nightstand, a photograph looked at us. My son Small hugging me on another Christmas, when I was his world, when he promised me he would always take care of me. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, and then I thought about something I had done 3 days before, something she didn't know, something no one knew. But while they were toasting with French champagne, the doorbell rang. Before I tell you what happened that night, I need you to understand how I got there. I need you to know the Eleanor from before, the one who believed in promises, the one who thought a mother's love was an indestructible shield. 5 years ago, my life was different. I lived alone in my house, that little house with the yard where my children grew up, where I planted bougainvillea and gardenias, where every Christmas I set up the nativity scene in the living room with the same clay figures my mother passed down to me. My husband Edward had passed away 2 years earlier. And although it hurt, I had learned to live with his absence. I would get up early, make fresh coffee water, the plants go to church on Sundays. I had friends. I had a routine. I had peace. My son Stephen came to see me every week sometimes with the kids, always affectionate, always worried. "Mom, are you eating well? Mom, do you need anything?" Until one day, he arrived with her, Valerie, tall, elegant, with a smile that seemed painted on. She hugged me as if she had known me all her life. "Mom, what a beautiful house. Stephen has told me so much about you." She called me Mom from the very first day. I smiled. I offered her coffee and the cheesecake I had made that morning. She ate delicately, praising every bite. Stephen looked at her mesmerized, and I, naive, thought, how wonderful that my son found someone who makes him happy. I didn't see the signs. I didn't see how she looked at my house, how she touched the furniture, how she evaluated every corner with those calculating eyes. I didn't see that she was already sizing up the territory, because 6 months later, Stephen arrived with a proposal. "Mom, Valerie and I want you to come live with us." At first, I thought it was a blessing. "Mom, you won't be alone. You'll be with your grandchildren every day. You'll have company." Stephen said it with so much love that I couldn't refuse. I sold my little house. That decision still hurts in my chest, but he insisted so much, and Valerie, always smiling, repeated, "Mom, it's going to be wonderful. You'll teach us so much. The kids need you." I moved in on a Tuesday in April. I arrived with my suitcases, my photographs, my clay nativity scene wrapped in newspaper. Valerie greeted me with flowers. "Welcome to your new home, Mom." The first few months were good. I helped with the kids. I took them to the park. I told them stories before bed. I made dinner when Valerie came home tired from work. She was grateful. Stephen was happy. But then the comments started, small, wrapped in smiles. "Mom, don't you think the casserole has a little too much cinnamon?" "In my family, we make it differently." "Oh, Mom, maybe don't tell the kids those old stories. They scare them." "Eleanor, could you not play the TV so loud? We try to keep a calm environment here." I apologized. I adjusted. I tried not to bother anyone. One day I came down for breakfast and found they had rearranged the living room furniture. My favorite armchair, the one Edward gave me, was in the basement. "It just didn't match the new decor, Mom. I hope you understand." Stephen said nothing. Another afternoon, I looked for my clay nativity scene to clean it. I couldn't find it. I asked Valerie, "Oh yes, Mom, It just took up so much space. I donated it to the church, but don't worry, we bought a new one more modern. I felt a lump in my throat. Those figures had been in my family for 3 generations. But I said nothing. I didn't want to cause problems. Until one night while we were eating dinner, Valerie dropped the sentence that marked the beginning of the end. "Stephen, honey, don't you think your mom would be more comfortable in a home? There are some really nice ones. With people her age, activities nurses." The fork fell from my hands. Stephen looked at me, and in his eyes I saw something that broke my soul. Doubt. That night I couldn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling of my room. That room Valerie had decorated with neutral colors and minimalist furniture. Nothing of mine. Nothing to remind me of who I was before I got there. Valerie's words spun in my head like a broken record. "Don't you think your mom would be more comfortable in a home," as if I were a piece of old furniture that was no longer useful, as if my 65 years had turned me into a burden, and the worst part, Stephen's look, that doubt, that silence. He didn't defend me, my own son, the boy I had carried in my arms for entire nights when he had a fever, the one I comforted when his dog died, the one who cried on my shoulder the day we buried his father. That same man did not say a single word in my defense. I got up before dawn. I made coffee, even though I knew Valerie preferred espresso from her Italian machine. I made scrambled eggs and bacon, fresh tortillas. When they came down for breakfast, I smiled. "Good morning. I made you breakfast." Valerie looked at the table with an expression that was hard to read. "Oh, Mom, what a lovely thought. But you know, Stephen is watching his cholesterol, and the kids are gluten intolerant. I've mentioned it several times." She had never mentioned it. Stephen didn't look up from his phone. "Thanks, Mom, but I already had a smoothie." I sat alone and ate what I had prepared. The taste of the bacon was bitter in my mouth. Sometimes we trust the wrong people. Have you also been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. The following days were the same. I tried to make myself useful. I did the laundry. But Valerie told me the machine had a special cycle that I didn't know how to use. I cleaned the living room. But she explained that they had a maid who came twice a week and I shouldn't tire myself out. I played with the children, but Valerie would interrupt. "Kids, Grandma needs to rest. Go do your homework." Little by little, I began to disappear. I became a ghost in that house. I spent hours in my room. I watched television with the volume low so as not to bother anyone. I read the same books over and over. The children stopped knocking on my door. Stephen worked late. And Valerie? Valerie looked at me like someone looks at a problem that needs to be solved. One day, while folding my clothes, I found a brochure for senior living homes. It was on my bed. Someone had left it there intentionally. Sunnydale Villa, where your loved one will live with dignity and joy. There were red circles around the prices. Notes in the margin in Valerie's handwriting. Includes 3 meals. 24-hour nursing. I sat on the bed with the brochure in my hands, and for the first time in months, I cried. I cried for my sold house, for my lost nativity scene, for my empty days, for the loneliness you feel when you are surrounded by people who no longer see you. But most of all, I cried for my son. Because Stephen had stopped being my son. He was now Valerie's husband, and in that house, she was in charge. That night during dinner, Valerie mentioned the home again. "Mom, Stephen and I were looking at options. There's a very nice one in the suburbs. It has beautiful gardens, painting workshops, even yoga for seniors." I looked at my son. "Stephen, do you really want me to go?" He wouldn't look me in the eye. "Mom, it's not that we want you to go. It's just, we think you'd be better off. You'd have more company. Here you just spend all your time alone in your room." "I spend all my time alone because no one talks to me." The words came out before I could stop them. Valerie narrowed her eyes. "Mom, I think you're exaggerating. We have always been very respectful to you. You donated my mother's nativity scene without asking me." Silence. Stephen cleared his throat, uncomfortable. Mom, it's just stuff. It was my stuff. Valerie put her wine glass down on the table with a sharp tap. Eleanor, I think you need to understand that this is our house, and that Stephen and I make the decisions here. If it bothers you so much, maybe it really is better if we look for other alternatives. I got up from the table without saying anything. I went up to my room. I closed the door. And in that moment, I made a decision. If they were going to treat me as invisible, then I was going to use that invisibility to my advantage. The next day, while Valerie was out shopping and Stephen was at work, I opened my laptop. I looked up the number of a lawyer, not just any lawyer, an old family friend, someone who had known my son since he was a child, Ms. Megan Stone. I wrote her an email. Megan, I need your help. I think I am the victim of emotional abuse. I need to document everything before it's too late. The reply came 2 hours later. Eleanor, you can count on me, but I need you to follow my instructions to the letter. And that's how it all began. Ms. Stone arrived 3 days later. She rang the bell on a Tuesday afternoon when Valerie was at her Pilates class and Stephen was in a business meeting. I opened the door with my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. Megan hugged me, and in that hug, I felt something I hadn't felt in months, that someone saw me, that someone believed me. Eleanor, tell me everything. We sat in the living room, that living room that no longer felt like mine, where my photos had been replaced with abstract art, where my armchair was gone. I told her everything, from the beginning, from the sale of my house to the brochure for the home, from the poisoned comments to the donation of my nativity scene. Megan listened in silence, taking notes in a black notebook. When I finished, she put the pen on the table and looked at me with a mixture of sadness and determination. Eleanor, what you are experiencing is called psychological elder abuse. It's a crime, but we need proof. Proof. Yes. We need to document everything. Recordings, messages, witnesses, anything that shows the pattern of abuse. I don't know if I can do that. Stephen is my son. I don't want to get him in trouble. Megan took my hands. Eleanor, your son is already in trouble because he is allowing this to happen. And believe me, if you don't put a stop to this now, it will get worse. I've seen cases like this. They end with the senior completely isolated, without resources, without dignity. Her words chilled me to the bone. What do I have to do? First, we'll install a small camera in the hallway, something discreet, just to document if there are more incidents. Second, I want you to start writing everything down, dates, times, what they said, what happened. And third, she paused. Third, I need you to stay strong. This is going to hurt, but it's necessary. That afternoon, Megan installed a camera the size of a button in a picture frame in the hallway. From there, it could see the door to my room and part of the staircase. It records automatically when it detects motion. It has cloud storage. No one can delete the images. When she left, I was left alone with a new notebook in my hands. On the first page, I wrote, August 28th. Valerie left a brochure for a nursing home on my bed. She didn't ask if I wanted to go. She just left it there like an order. The next few days were strange. I kept behaving the same, quiet, submissive, invisible. But now, every hurtful word, every dismissive gesture, every moment of contempt was recorded in my notebook, and on that silent camera that no one knew existed. On September 1st, while I was washing the dishes after lunch, I heard the conversation between Valerie and Stephen in the living room. They didn't see me. I was standing with my back to them, my hands in the soapy water. Honey, we need to talk about your mom. What is it now? It's just, I can't take it anymore. I feel her here all the time, like a ghost. It makes me uncomfortable. The kids don't even pay attention to her anymore. And honestly, I feel like this house is too small for 3 generations. Valerie, she's my mom. I know. And that's why I'm asking you to think with your head, not with your guilt. Your mom isn't sick. She doesn't need special care. She can live perfectly well in a home. She could even make friends. Here she just gets depressed. She gets depressed because you make her feel bad. I froze. Stephen was defending me, but then Valerie changed her tone. Her voice became soft, manipulative. My love, I have never been rude to your mother. I have always treated her with respect, but you have to understand that this situation is affecting our marriage. I feel invaded in my own home, and the kids need space. Or is your mom more important than your family? Silence. She is my family. No, Stephen. I am your family. Your children are your family. Your mom already did her part. She already raised you. She already did her job. Now it's your turn to live your life. Without burdens. Without burdens. Those 2 words stabbed me in the chest like knives. I left the dishes. I went up to my room. I locked the door. And I wrote in my notebook with a trembling hand. September 1st, Valerie told Stephen I am a burden, that their marriage is suffering because of me, that I already did my part. That night during dinner, Stephen looked at me with an expression I couldn't interpret. Mom, we need to talk. Tell me. Valerie and I were thinking, and we believe it would be good for you to visit some nursing homes, just to see the options. It's not final. We just want you to see that there are very nice places. Valerie smiled, that victorious smile. I took a deep breath. All right, let's visit the homes. They both looked at each other, surprised. Really, Mom? Yes, if you both think it's for the best, then let's visit them. Valerie could barely hide her satisfaction. Oh, Mom, that's great that you're taking it this way. You'll see. You're going to love it. That night I sent a message to Megan. They fell into the trap. They want to take me to see the homes. What's next? Her reply came minutes later. Perfect. Agree to go. Document everything. And in the meantime, I'm going to prepare something they won't see coming. As I tell this, I wonder where you might be listening. Write the name of your city in the comments. The following Saturday, Valerie took me to see 3 homes. Stephen didn't come. He had pending work. At the first one, an 80-year-old woman grabbed my arm and whispered in my ear, Honey, if you can avoid it, don't come here. This isn't life. It's a warehouse for old people. Valerie, who was walking ahead with the administrator, didn't hear her. At the second home, I saw a man in a wheelchair crying in front of a window. No one even looked at him. And at the third, the most expensive, the most elegant, with gardens and fountains and spacious rooms, I saw something that broke my soul. In the dining room, there was a woman sitting alone. In front of her, an untouched plate. She was staring at the door with a hopeful expression. That's her spot, the nurse told me with a professional smile. She always sits there. She waits for her children to come visit. And do they? The nurse looked down. They came once, 6 months ago, the day they checked her in. I approached the woman. I smiled. Hello, my name is Eleanor. She looked at me with glassy eyes. Are you my daughter? No, ma'am, but if you want, I can keep you company for a while. I sat with her. Valerie called me from the doorway, impatient. But I didn't move. This woman told me about her children, about how they had convinced her she would be better off there, about how they promised to visit every week. But they're busy, she told me with a sad smile. They have their lives, I understand. When I left that home, I told Valerie, I'm not going to any of these places. She stopped dead in her tracks. I'm sorry. I said I'm not going to a nursing home. I would rather die alone on the street than end up like that woman, waiting for visits that never come. Valerie gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. Eleanor, you are being very dramatic. No, I'm being realistic. And more importantly, I'm being clear. I am not leaving. The ride back was silent. A heavy, threatening silence. When we got to the house, Valerie went straight to her room. I heard her talking on the phone, her voice agitated. Stephen, your mom is being difficult. I don't know what to do with her anymore. That night, I wrote in my notebook. September 7th, visited 3 homes, saw the same thing in all of them. Loneliness disguised as comfort. I told Valerie I won't go. I know this is going to get worse, but I've made my decision. If they want to get rid of me, they're going to have to try harder. And at the bottom of the page, I added something else. Megan told me to be patient, that karma always comes around, that justice is sometimes slow, but it never fails. I hope she's right. I closed the notebook, I turned off the light, and for the first time in months, I slept peacefully, because I knew that even though I was alone in that house, I was no longer defenseless. I had proof. I had Megan. And above all, I had something Valerie had underestimated. Dignity. Things changed after that day. I was no longer invisible. Now I was a visible problem. Valerie stopped pretending. There were no more forced smiles or sweet-voiced "Mom." Now she spoke to me with a coldness that cut. "Eleanor, could you not leave your things in the living room?" "Eleanor, the children need silence to study. Could you watch TV with headphones?" "Eleanor, I need you to understand that this house has rules." Stephen looked the other way, always busy, always avoiding me. I continued to follow Megan's instructions to the letter. Document, write it down, stay firm. But I won't lie to you. There were days when I wanted to give up, days when I thought maybe it was just easier to leave, to disappear, to stop being a bother, until the day came that changed everything. It was mid-October, a Thursday. I remember because it was my granddaughter Sarah's birthday. She was turning 8. I had been preparing her gift for weeks. I was knitting her a pink sweater, her favorite color, stitch by stitch, with all my love, with all the time I had, locked in my room. That morning I went down early. I wanted to make Sarah's favorite breakfast, pancakes with syrup and strawberries. I wanted it to be a special day for her. I walked into the kitchen and found Valerie making coffee. "Good morning." She barely looked at me. "Morning." "I thought I would make pancakes for Sarah. It's her birthday." "I know. I'm her mother." "I know. I just want—" "Eleanor." She interrupted me, setting her mug on the counter with a thud. "I need to talk to you." Something in her tone put me on alert. "Tell me." "Stephen and I have been talking, and we think— no, we are sure that the best thing is for you to leave this house." The air got stuck in my lungs. "Are you kicking me out?" "Don't look at it like that. Look at it as an opportunity. You still have time to rebuild your life. You can rent an apartment, travel, do whatever you want." "I sold my house to come here." "That was your decision. Nobody forced you." "Stephen asked me to." "Stephen is very noble, too noble. But I have to think about my children, about my marriage, and frankly, your presence here is affecting the family dynamic." "I am his family." Valerie laughed, a dry, humorless laugh. "No, Eleanor. You are my husband's mother, nothing more. And that doesn't give you the right to invade my space, my marriage, my life." "Invade?" "Yes, invade. Because that's what you do. You're here all the time, in the living room, in the kitchen. The kids can't even breathe without you wanting to give your opinion or help. I need you to understand that you are no longer needed here." Every word was a slap. "Does Stephen know you're saying this to me?" It was his idea. A lie. I saw in her eyes it was a lie. "I want to talk to my son. He's working. And anyway, we've already made the decision. You have until the end of the month to find another place." "And what if I don't leave?" Valerie looked at me with a coldness that chilled me to the bone. "Then we will have to take more drastic measures." She left the kitchen, leaving me there, standing, shaking with rage and pain. I didn't make the pancakes. I went up to my room, I locked the door, and I called Megan. "I can't take it anymore. They're kicking me out." "Calm down, Eleanor. Breathe. Tell me exactly what happened." I told her everything word for word. Megan was silent for a moment. "Perfect." "Perfect? How can this be perfect?" "Because now we have a direct threat. Eleanor, I want you to do something for me. When Stephen gets home, ask him to talk to you. And when he does, record him. With your phone. Discreetly. I need to hear what he says. I don't know if I can. Eleanor, listen to me. This isn't just about you anymore. It's about all the elderly women who are suffering abuse and have no voice. You have the chance to put a stop to this. But I need you to be brave. One more time. Can you do that? I closed my eyes. I thought of my mother, my grandmother, all the women in my family who swallowed their humiliations in silence. Yes, I can do it. Stephen got home at 7. I waited for him in the living room, with the phone in my sweater pocket recording. Mom, do you need something? I need to talk to you. It's not a good time, I'm tired. Stephen, please, 5 minutes. He sighed. He sat in the armchair across from me. What do you want to talk about? Valerie told me this morning that I have to leave the house. He looked away. Mom, is it true? Are you kicking me out? I'm not kicking you out, but yes, I do think it would be better if you found your own space. I sold my house to come here because you asked me. And I'm grateful, but things have changed. Valerie doesn't feel comfortable anymore, and I have to think about my marriage. And you don't have to think about your mother. Mom, don't be dramatic. I'm not abandoning you. I'm just asking you to live somewhere else. I'll help you financially. You can rent something nearby. We'll still see each other. Like you visited that woman in the home once every 6 months. That's not fair. You know what's not fair, Stephen? That you promised me you would always take care of me. That the day of your father's funeral, you hugged me crying and said, Mom, you will never be alone. I will always be with you. Do you remember that? I saw his jaw tremble. Mom, I didn't say I would have you in my house for my entire life. No, but you said I wouldn't be alone, and now you're leaving me alone. You're not my responsibility anymore. Those words came out of his mouth like a gunshot. I fell silent, staring at him. This man who had been my baby, my child, my reason for living for so many years. This man who now saw me as a burden. I understand, I said finally, with a calm I didn't know I had. I am not your responsibility anymore. But one day, Stephen, when your children grow up and do the same thing to you, you are going to remember this conversation. Mom, don't say that. It's not a curse. It's life. You reap what you sow. I stood up. I will stay until the end of the month, as Valerie asked. After that, you will have the house to yourselves, without any burdens. Stephen opened his mouth to say something. But I was already climbing the stairs. I went into my room, I closed the door, I took out the phone and stopped the recording. I sent the audio file to Megan. Her reply came half an hour later. Eleanor, this is pure gold. You just gave me everything I need. Now comes the hard part. I need you to hold on until Christmas. Why until Christmas? Because if they are going to kick you out, they will probably do it before the holidays. And if that happens, I want to be ready. Trust me. I still wonder if I did the right thing. What about you? What would you have done in my place? The days that followed were the hardest of my life. Valerie no longer spoke to me. The children avoided me. Stephen came home late and locked himself in his study. I became a ghost. But I kept documenting. I kept writing. I kept recording. One day I found a note on my pillow. Remember, you have until October 31st to leave. We don't want problems. It wasn't signed, but I recognized Valerie's handwriting. I wrote in my notebook. October 22nd. Found a threatening note. They don't even have the courage to say it to my face anymore. On October 26th, Valerie hosted a dinner party with her friends. She didn't invite me, but I heard everything from my room. The laughter, the clinking of glasses, the music. And then I heard my name. And your mother-in-law. Oh, don't get me started. It's a horrible situation. The poor thing doesn't understand that it's time for her to go. She's clinging to this house as if it were hers. And what does Stephen say? Stephen is a sweetheart, but he's too noble. Sometimes he needs someone to make the hard decisions for him. Laughter. My mother-in-law was a problem too. Until we convinced her to go live with my sister-in-law. Best decision ever. Exactly. It's just, at a certain age, parents have to understand that they've already served their purpose. More laughter, more wine. I was sitting on my bed, in the dark, listening to them talk about me as if I were a piece of old furniture. I picked up my phone. I wrote to Megan. I can't take it anymore. I need to get out of here. Hold on, Eleanor. Just a little longer. Christmas is almost here, and I promise you, at Christmas, everything will change. November arrived. On the 1st of the month, Valerie knocked on my door at 7 in the morning. Eleanor, we need you to vacate the room today. You said until the end of the month. I changed my mind. We need this room to set up an office for Stephen. If you can't leave the house, you can at least go to a hotel while you look for an apartment. A hotel. Stephen will give you money. Don't worry. It wasn't a request. It was an order. I started packing my bags, my hands shaking. I folded my clothes. I put away my books, my photographs. And then I found something I had forgotten. The photograph. That old Christmas photograph. My little son, hugging me, smiling. Mommy, I love you so much. You are the best mommy in the world. That's what it said on the back in his childhood handwriting. I broke down. I cried like I hadn't cried in years. And in that moment, I grabbed my phone and called Megan. They are kicking me out today. I can't wait until Christmas. They are not kicking you out. Refuse. It's your right. And if they call the police, let them. I have everything documented. Eleanor, trust me. Do not leave that house, not without a fight. I took a deep breath. I went downstairs with my suitcases. Valerie was in the living room waiting. Are you ready? I'm not leaving. I'm sorry. I said, I am not leaving. This is my son's house. And until he asks me to leave, looking me in the eyes, I am not moving from here. Valerie stood up, her face transformed. The mask was gone. Listen to me carefully, Pathy old woman. This is my house, and you are going to get out of here today. Even if I have to call the police. Call them. She froze. What did you say? I said, call the police. I want it on record that you are throwing me out onto the street. Valerie took out her phone, but before she could dial, Stephen walked in. What is going on here? Your mother refuses to leave. Stephen looked at me, and for a second, just 1 second, I saw the little boy from the photograph, but then his gaze hardened. Mom, please, don't make this any harder. You have to ask me, son, not her. You. I'm asking you. Leave. Those 2 words. Leave. They pierced my soul. I picked up my suitcases. I walked to the door, and before I left, I turned around. One day, you are going to regret this, Stephen. And when that day comes, I hope you find someone more compassionate than you. I closed the door, and I left. I called Megan from a coffee shop. They kicked me out. I know. The camera recorded everything. What do I do now? Now. You rest, and we prepare the next step. Eleanor, I know it hurts, but I promise you, this is not over. And Christmas. Megan was silent for a moment, and then I heard a smile in her voice. Christmas is going to be unforgettable, I promise you. I stayed in a modest hotel downtown, a small room with a single bed, a tiny bathroom, and a window that looked out onto an alley. Nothing of mine, nothing familiar, just me and my suitcases. The first night I couldn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the white walls, feeling the weight of the silence. How had I gotten here? How had I gone from having my own home, a family, a life, to being alone in a hotel room at 65? I picked up my phone. I looked at the screen. No messages from Stephen. No calls. Nothing. It was as if I had never existed. Megan came to see me the next day. She arrived with coffee and pastries. She sat with me on the only chair in the room. How are you? I don't know. And it was the truth. I didn't know if I was sad, furious, lost, or liberated. I felt everything at once. Eleanor, I know this hurts, but I want you to know something. What you are living through is not your fault. None of this is your fault. Then why do I feel so guilty? Because you're a mother. And mothers carry guilt that doesn't belong to them. Megan opened her briefcase and took out a thick folder. Look at this. Inside were photos, screenshots, audio transcripts, everything we had documented for months. The conversation where Valerie called me a burden, the recording of Stephen telling me I was no longer his responsibility, the threatening note, the images from the hidden camera showing Valerie talking to her friends, laughing as she said, I didn't understand I had served my purpose, and an image that broke my heart. It was from the day they kicked me out. The camera had captured the exact moment Stephen told me, leave, his expression, his cold, distant, as if I were a stranger. We have everything, Eleanor. Everything we need to prove psychological abuse, elder abandonment, and harassment. We can proceed legally. And what does that mean? It means we can sue them, we can make them face legal consequences, fines, community service, even prison depending on how the case develops. I was silent. But, Megan continued, there's something else. Something I want to propose. What? I know Christmas is coming, and I know Valerie is planning a big dinner. She's going to invite her parents, her siblings, close friends. She wants to show off her perfect house, her perfect family. And what if we use that dinner to teach her a lesson she will never forget? Megan explained the plan. It was risky, it was painful, but it was just. On Christmas Eve, you are going to show up at that house as if nothing happened. You are going to knock on the door and ask your son to let you in. And if he doesn't, then we have the rejection documented. But I've known Stephen since he was a kid. He's carrying guilt, and on Christmas, that guilt is going to be heavy. He won't be able to turn you away in front of all his guests. And then what? Then you wait. You sit in a corner if you have to. You stay quiet. And when everyone is making a toast, when Valerie is in her moment of glory... Megan paused. I am going to arrive, not as your friend, but as your lawyer, and I am going to serve her with the lawsuit publicly. I will deliver the formal complaint for elder abuse in front of everyone. I felt my skin crawl. Is that legal? Completely. It's an uncommon strategy, but effective. Because we're not just suing her legally, we're exposing her socially. And for people like Valerie, who live for appearances, that is worse than any fine. But Stephen, he's going to suffer too. Eleanor, your son kicked you out onto the street in the middle of November. He told you that you were no longer his responsibility. Do you really think he deserves your protection? I didn't answer, because the truth hurt too much. I spent the next few weeks preparing. Megan helped me find a small apartment. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. With light coming through the window, with space for my things, little by little. I began to rebuild myself. I went for walks in the morning. I went to church on Sundays. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected during the years I lived with Stephen and Valerie. One of them, Sharon, invited me for coffee. Eleanor, I haven't heard from you in ages. How have you been? I told her everything. I didn't hold anything back. When I finished, Sharon had tears in her eyes. Oh, my friend, and here I was thinking you were so lucky to be living with your son. Everyone thought that. Even I thought that. Until I lived the reality. And what are you going to do? I'm going to get justice. December arrived, the streets filled with Christmas lights, carols in the stores, families buying gifts, and me preparing for the most important night of my life. Megan called me every 2 days. Are you ready? I don't know. Sometimes I think I should just let it go, forget about them and move on with my life. Eleanor, this isn't just for you. It's for all the elderly women who are suffering abuse in silence. If you don't put a stop to this, it's going to keep happening. Not just to you, but to other mothers, other grandmothers. She was right. This was bigger than me. On December 23rd, I received a text message. It was from an unknown number. Grandma, we miss you. Are you coming for Christmas, Sarah? My heart broke. My grandchildren. They weren't at fault for any of this. I replied, My love, I miss you too. I'll see you soon. I love you. That night I took out the old Christmas photograph, the one I had saved in my suitcase. Little Stephen, hugging me. Mommy, I love you so much. You are the best mommy in the world. I stroked his paper face. I love you too, son. That's why I'm going to do this. Because one day, when you're old, you'll understand that what I did out of love, self-love, and I hope that saves you from repeating the same mistakes with me that your children might make with you. The morning of December 24th. I woke up early, I showered, I got dressed in my best clothes, a navy blue dress I hadn't worn since Edward's funeral. I put on light makeup, I fixed my hair carefully. I looked at myself in the mirror, and I saw a different woman. I was no longer the invisible Eleanor hiding in her room. I was the Eleanor who had raised a son alone after being widowed. The Eleanor who had worked double shifts to pay for his college. The Eleanor who had sacrificed everything for her family, and that Eleanor deserved respect. I arrived at Stephen's house at 7 p.m. There were cars parked out front, lights in all the windows, soft music. The dinner party had already started. I took a deep breath, and I rang the doorbell. Nobody answered. I rang again. Nothing. Then I banged on the door with my fist. Finally it opened. It was Stephen. He was wearing a crisp white shirt. He smelled of expensive cologne. He looked at me as if he were seeing a ghost. Mom, what are you doing here? It's Christmas, son. I came to have dinner with my family. Mom, it's not a good time. Why? Because you have guests. I am your family too, Stephen. Behind him, Valerie appeared, wearing an elegant red dress and holding a wine glass. Her expression froze when she saw me. Eleanor, Valerie, what are you doing here? I came for dinner. It's Christmas Eve. I thought maybe you could make a space for me at the table. We didn't invite you. I don't need an invitation to be with my son and my grandchildren. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. From inside I heard Sarah's voice. Daddy, who is it? And then a cry of joy. Grandma! My granddaughter ran to the door. She hugged me so tight she almost knocked me over. Grandma, you came. I missed you so much. The tears burned my eyes. I missed you too, my love. Behind Sarah, my grandson David appeared. Grandma Eleanor. I hugged them both. And in that moment, Stephen couldn't turn me away. Not in front of his children. Not on Christmas. Mom, all right, come in. Valerie gripped her wine glass so tightly I thought it would shatter. I walked into the house. The living room was full of people. Valerie's parents, her siblings, some couples I didn't know. They all looked at me with curiosity. This is my mom, Stephen said, his voice tense. Eleanor. A pleasure to meet you, I said with a smile I didn't feel. Valerie pointed to a chair in the corner of the dining room. You can sit there. Not at the main table, on a separate chair, like an intruder, but I said nothing. I sat down. Sarah and David sat on the floor next to me. Grandma, where have you been? Living somewhere else, my love, but I think about you every day. Why don't you live with us anymore? Before I could answer, Valerie intervened. Children, let your grandmother rest. Go play. But now. The children left, but not before looking back at me with sad faces. The dinner continued as if I wasn't there. Valerie was the perfect hostess, smiling, charming. She poured wine. She told anecdotes. She made jokes. Stephen looked at her with adoration. Their guests laughed, and I, in my chair in the corner, was invisible again until it was time for the toast. Valerie stood up, her glass held high. I'd like to make a toast to this beautiful family, to this year ending full of blessings, to health, love, and prosperity, to all of us who are here, together, celebrating. Everyone raised their glasses. Cheers! The clinking of crystal filled the room, the laughter, the hugs, and then the doorbell rang. Valerie frowned. Who could that be at this hour? Stephen stood up. I'll get it. I knew who it was. My heart was beating so hard I thought everyone could hear it. Stephen opened the door, and there was Megan, in an impeccable black suit, a folder under her arm, and a serious expression that meant business. "Good evening. I am Megan Stone, an attorney. I am looking for Mrs. Valerie Benson." The silence that followed was deafening. All conversations stopped. The laughter froze. The glasses hung suspended in the air. Valerie turned pale. "I'm sorry." Megan walked into the living room with purpose. Her presence filled the space. She wasn't here as a guest. She was here as an authority. "Mrs. Valerie Benson. Are you her?" "Yes. But who are you? This is a private party. I am Megan Stone, an attorney specializing in elder rights, and I am here representing Mrs. Eleanor Benson." All eyes turned to me. I remained seated in my corner chair, calm, silent. Stephen looked at me with a mixture of confusion and fear. "Mom, what is this?" I didn't answer. Megan continued, "Mrs. Benson, I am here to formally notify you that you are being sued for psychological abuse and abandonment of a senior citizen. The victim is your mother-in-law, Mrs. Eleanor Benson." Valerie let out a nervous laugh. "Abuse? This is ridiculous. Stephen, tell this woman to leave." But Megan didn't move. She opened her folder and took out a thick envelope. "Here is the formal complaint. It was filed with the district attorney's office last week, and this is your official summons." She held the envelope out to her. Valerie didn't take it. "This is a sick joke." "I assure you it is not." Valerie's father stood up. "Excuse me, miss, but this is inappropriate. It's Christmas Eve. If you have legal matters, you can wait until after the holidays." Megan looked at him unfazed. "Abuse doesn't wait until after the holidays, sir, and neither does the law." She turned back to Valerie. "Are you going to take the envelope, or would you prefer I read it aloud in front of all your guests?" Valerie snatched the envelope with trembling hands. "This is absurd. I never abused anyone." "Oh, you didn't." Megan took out her tablet. "Would you like me to play the recordings where you tell your husband that Mrs. Benson is a burden? Or would you prefer I show the security camera footage of you kicking her out of the house in the middle of November?" Valerie's face turned white as a sheet. "Camera what camera?" "The one Mrs. Benson legally installed in the hallway outside her room, to protect herself." "Why is it Mrs. Benson that when a woman over 65 feels she needs to record every interaction in her own family for proof, something is very wrong?" Stephen took a step forward. "Mom, you recorded everything." I finally spoke. "Yes, son. I recorded everything. Every comment, every humiliation, every time you made me feel like a burden in my own family." "But why?" "Because I knew this day would come. Because I met women like me in those homes you took me to visit. Women who were thrown out by their families and left with nothing, no proof, no voice, no justice." I stood up from my chair, and for the first time in months, everyone was truly looking at me. "I didn't want it to come to this, Stephen. I just wanted you to treat me with the same love and respect that I treated you with your entire life." My voice broke, but I continued. "I sold my house because you asked me to. I left my life, my friends, my routine, everything. Because you told me you wanted to take care of me, that I wouldn't be alone." Tears started to fall. "And instead of taking care of me, you allowed your wife to humiliate me day after day. You took away my space. You donated my mother's things without asking. You made me feel like every breath I took was an inconvenience." Valerie tried to interrupt. "That's not—" "Be quiet." The voice came out with a strength even I didn't know I had. "For once in your life, then be quiet and listen." The silence was absolute. "You told me I had served my purpose, that I was no longer needed, that I should go to a home so you could enjoy your house, your family, your perfect life." I turned to the guests. "Do you know what it feels like for your own daughter-in-law to lock you in a room during Christmas dinner last year, to tell you, 'I just want my family at the table'?" I heard murmurs of shock. Valerie's mother looked uncomfortable. "Valerie, is that true?" Valerie stammered. She was tired. I thought—" "A lie," I said calmly. "She turned the key from the outside. She left me locked in while you all ate dinner. I heard the laughter, the toast, the voices of my grandchildren asking for me, and her voice, saying I had already eaten when she hadn't even offered me a plate." Sarah started to cry. "Mommy, you locked Grandma in her room." "Sarah, it's not what—" "I asked for her. You said she was tired. You lied." David stood up and ran to me. He hugged me. "Grandma, I'm sorry. We didn't know." I hugged them both, crying. "It's not your fault, my loves. It was never your fault." Megan took control again. "Mrs. Benson, the lawsuit includes charges of psychological abuse threats, unlawful imprisonment for the incident of being locked in on Christmas, and abandonment of a vulnerable person." "I didn't abandon her. She left." "Did she leave, or was she thrown out?" Megan played an audio file on her tablet. It was Valerie's voice, clear as crystal. "I need you to understand that you are no longer needed here. You have until the end of the month to find another place, and if you don't leave, we will have to take more drastic measures." Valerie's parents looked at each other, horrified. Then Stephen's voice. "Mom, you're not my responsibility anymore." A sob escaped my throat hearing it again. Stephen collapsed into a chair, his head in his hands. "Oh my God, did I say that?" "Yes," I replied. "You did." Megan put away her tablet. "Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of this notification is not to ruin your Christmas. It is to make you understand the gravity of what has been done. Elder abuse is a federal crime. It can result in up to 8 years in prison and fines of up to $500,000. Valerie's sister stood up. "Valerie, how could you? She's an old woman." "I am not an old woman," I said firmly. "I am 65 years old. I am perfectly healthy. I have my full mind, and I only wanted a little love and respect." I walked over to Stephen. He looked up. His eyes were red. "Son, I don't want your money. I don't want your house. I just wanted you to see me, to value me, to remember everything I did for you." "Mom, Let me finish." I took a deep breath. "I have decided not to live the rest of my life begging for love. If you don't want me in your life, that's fine, but I will not disappear in silence. I will not allow you to erase me as if I never existed." I turned to Valerie. "And you? One day you will be old. One day your children will grow up, and when that happens, I hope they treat you better than you treated me, because karma, Valerie, always collects. Always." Valerie's father approached me. "Mrs. Benson, I had no idea about any of this. If I had known—" "You don't have to apologize for her, sir. Everyone is responsible for their own actions." Valerie's mother had tears in her eyes. "My daughter, I raised her better than this." "Then talk to her, because this didn't just happen to me. It happens to thousands of older women in this country, and it needs to stop." Megan closed her folder. "Mrs. Benson, your summons is for January 8th at the courthouse. It is recommended that you find legal representation, and for your information, Mrs. Benson is not seeking money. She is seeking justice and a public acknowledgement that what she experienced was abuse." She turned to me. "Are you ready, Eleanor?" I nodded. I hugged my grandchildren one last time. "I love you both very much. Never forget that." "Are you leaving Grandma?" "Yes, my love, but now you will know where to find me, and the doors of my house will always be open for you." I gave each of them a kiss on the forehead, and I walked to the door. Before leaving, I turned around one last time. Merry Christmas. I left that house with Megan by my side. The cold December air hit my face, but I didn't feel cold. I felt free. "Are you okay?" Megan asked. "Yes," I replied, surprised that it was true. "I'm okay. You did amazing in there." "No, I did what I had to do. What I should have done a long time ago." We got into Megan's car. As we drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror. I saw the lit-up house, the Christmas lights, Valerie's perfect life. But I no longer felt envy, because I had something she would never have: peace of mind. That night in my small apartment, I took out the old Christmas photograph, little Stephen hugging me. I put it in a new frame and placed it in my living room, not to remember what I lost, but to remember who I was, a mother who gave everything, and who, in the end, found the strength to give love to herself. In the days that followed, many things happened. Stephen called me. I didn't answer the first time, or the second, but on the third I did. "Mom." His voice sounded broken. "Yes, I'm sorry." I said nothing. "You're right about everything. I was a coward, a bad son. I failed you when you needed me most." "Yes, you failed me. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed you to know that I am destroyed by what I did to you. And Valerie and I, we're in therapy. Well, I'm in therapy. She refuses to accept she did anything wrong. I'm not surprised. Mom, can I come see you?" I thought about saying no. I thought about hanging up. But then I remembered something. A mother's love doesn't just turn off. It hurts. It bleeds. But it doesn't turn off. "You can come, but on one condition. Anything. That you come alone, and that you come ready to listen, not to justify, not to explain, just to listen." Okay. Stephen came 2 days later. He knocked on my apartment door timidly. I let him in. He looked exhausted, dark circles, unshaven. "Your place is nice. It's small, but it's mine." We sat in the living room. The silence was uncomfortable. Finally, he spoke. "Mom, I've been thinking a lot. About everything. About how I treated you. About the things I said, and I have no excuse." "No, you don't. Valerie manipulated me. But that's not an excuse, because I know you. I know who you are, and I still chose to believe her." "Why?" "Because it was easier. Because she's my wife, and you're my mom. And I thought that you would always be there, that you would always forgive me. And now I know I was about to lose you forever, and it terrifies me." His voice cracked. "Mom, you taught me to be a good man. You taught me values, respect, love. And I forgot all of that. I became someone you wouldn't recognize." Tears rolled down his cheeks. "I don't know if you can ever forgive me, but I want you to know that I am going to spend the rest of my life trying to be the son you deserved from the beginning." I looked at him. And I saw the boy from the photograph, but I also saw the man who had hurt me. "Stephen, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if I can forgive you yet, because the pain is very deep. You kicked me out. You told me I wasn't your responsibility. Those words are not easily forgotten." "I know. But," I continued, "you are my son, and a part of me will always love you. That doesn't mean I'm going to forget what happened, or that things will go back to the way they were, because they can't. Then we are going to start over, slowly, with clear boundaries, and if at any moment I feel I am being disrespected again, I'm leaving, and I'm not coming back." Stephen nodded. "I accept your terms. And one more thing. Yes, I am never moving back in with you. Ever. I understand. And I am not going to pretend that Valerie and I are family, because we are not. She hurt me. And even if you forgive her, I don't have to. You're right." Little by little, Stephen and I began to rebuild our relationship. He came to visit me once a week. He brought me flowers. We had breakfast together. We talked about superficial things at first, but over time, we went deeper. One day he told me, "Mom, I've been reading about elder abuse. I had no idea it was so common. It's common because it's silent, because the victims are our parents, our mothers, our grandparents, and we're ashamed to admit we're mistreating them. I was one of those sons. Yes, but now you are one of the few who is acknowledging it, and that counts. The children also started visiting me. Stephen brought them on Saturdays. Sarah would hug me so tight I could barely breathe. "Grandma, your house is pretty. Can I sleep over?" "Of course, my love." David was quieter, but he would hold my hand. "Grandma, are you not sad anymore?" "No, my sweetie. Now I'm at peace." The lawsuit moved forward. Valerie never apologized. In fact, she hired a lawyer who tried to discredit all the evidence. But the images were clear, the audio was irrefutable, and the children's testimonies were devastating. The judge ruled that Valerie had committed psychological abuse. The sentence: 100 hours of community service at a nursing home and a $50,000 fine, which would be donated to a foundation for elder protection. But most importantly, a permanent mark on her record. "Mrs. Benson," the judge said, "I want you to understand something. The elderly are not disposable. They are not furniture to be thrown away when they are no longer useful. They are human beings with dignity, with stories, with rights. And what you did is inadmissible." Valerie left the court with her head down. I left with my head held high. 6 months passed after the trial. 6 months in which my life changed in ways I never imagined. My apartment became my sanctuary. Every morning I woke up without fear, without anxiety. Without that feeling of walking on eggshells. I picked up my hobbies again. I went back to knitting. I started taking painting classes at a community center. I made new friends, women my age who also had stories to tell. One of them, Ruth, told me one day, "Eleanor, you have a different glow. I can see it in your face." "Really?" "Yes, it's like you've been reborn." And she was right, because for the first time in years I was in charge of my own life. But as I flourished, Valerie's life began to fall apart. Not all at once, not with a catastrophic event, but slowly, like a building crumbling brick by brick. It started with her friends. The news of the lawsuit spread like wildfire in her social circle. The same women who had toasted with her at that Christmas dinner now looked at her sideways. "Is it true you abused your mother-in-law? Did you really lock her in a room during dinner? Oh, Valerie, I had no idea you were like that." One by one, the invitations stopped coming. The coffee dates were canceled. The group chats went silent. Valerie, who had always been the center of attention, was now the center of gossip, and not the good kind. Stephen told me all of this during one of our visits. "Mom, Valerie is destroyed. She doesn't leave the house anymore. She cries all the time." "And what did you expect?" "I don't know what I expected, but seeing her like this is hard." "Stephen, do you know what's hard? Being kicked out onto the street at 65. Being treated like trash by your own family? That's hard." He looked down. "You're right. Valerie is reaping what she sowed. That's not cruelty. It's a consequence." But karma didn't stop there. A month after the trial, Valerie had to start her community service at the nursing home. Megan called me to tell me, "Eleanor, you should see this. Valerie showed up at the home looking like she was at a funeral, as if she'd been sentenced to hard labor." And what does she do there? Everything. She washes dishes, cleans rooms, serves food, and most importantly, she has to sit and talk with the residents, 1 hour a day, so she can learn to see them as people, not burdens. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Now that is poetic justice. Wait, there's more. The director of the home is a very wise woman. She assigned Valerie to one resident in particular, Ms. Carmen, 82 years old. She was abandoned by her daughter 5 years ago. Oh no. Oh yes. Ms. Carmen tells Valerie every day how her daughter convinced her to sell her house, give her her savings, and then checked her into the home promising to visit every week. And does she visit? She has never been back. The silence between us was heavy. Valerie comes out of those conversations crying, Megan continued, because she is seeing her own reflection. She is seeing what she did to you magnified 1,000 times. But the real karma arrived on a Tuesday in August. Stephen showed up at my apartment without warning. He knocked on the door urgently. When I opened it, I saw his devastated face. "Mom, I need to talk to you." "What happened?" "It's Valerie. She's in the hospital." My blood ran cold. "What's wrong?" "She had a severe panic attack. I found her on the bathroom floor, hyperventilating. I thought she was dying." I let him in. I poured him some water. "Tell me everything." Stephen collapsed onto the sofa. "Mom, these last few months have been horrible. Valerie isn't the same. She cries all the time. She doesn't sleep. She doesn't eat. Her friends abandoned her. Her family is distant. And I don't know what to do anymore." "And is she asking you to talk to me?" "No, she doesn't even know I'm here. But I need your advice, because I don't know how to help her. And I also don't know if I should." "What do you mean?"
"Part of me feels guilty for her. She's my wife, the mother of my children. But another part of me feels that this is what she deserved. And I feel terrible for thinking that." I sat next to him. "Stephen, what Valerie is going through isn't a punishment that you or I inflicted on her. It is the natural consequence of her actions. When you mistreat someone, when you humiliate, when you hurt, the universe collects. It always collects." "But she's suffering so much." "And I suffered too. The difference is, I suffered without deserving it. She is suffering because of her own decisions." Stephen covered his face with his hands. "What do I do, Mom? Do you love her?" "I don't know. I don't know what I feel for her anymore." "Then, that's your answer." 2 weeks later, Stephen made a decision no one saw coming. He called me on the phone. "Mom, I asked Valerie for a divorce." I was speechless. "What? I can't go on like this."
"I've been in therapy. I've been working on myself. And I realized that my marriage to Valerie was built on the wrong foundations, on control, manipulation, appearances." "Stephen, let me finish. When I lost you, Mom, when I watched you walk out of my house that day, something broke inside me. And it can't be fixed. Because I understood that I chose the wrong person. I chose someone who made me lose the person who loved me most in this world." His voice cracked. "And I don't want my children to grow up thinking that's what love is. I don't want David to treat his future partner the way I treated Valerie, by allowing her to mistreat his mother. I don't want Sarah to grow up thinking that older women are disposable. Son, I'm going to fight for custody, because Valerie is in no condition to take care of anyone right now, and because I need to teach my kids what you taught me: respect, dignity, true love." Tears rolled down my cheeks. "I'm proud of you." "Ma, you shouldn't be." "Not yet. I still have a lot to repair. But you're starting, and that's what matters." The news of the divorce shattered Valerie, not because she loved Stephen, but because she lost the only thing that mattered to her: her perfect image. Without a husband, without friends, without a reputation, Valerie was left alone, exactly as she had left me. But unlike me, she didn't have the inner strength to rebuild. One day, months later, I ran into her at the supermarket. It was inevitable. We were in the same aisle. She looked exhausted, thinner, deep dark circles, her hair dull. Our eyes met. She immediately looked down. I could have kept walking. I could have ignored her existence. But something inside me, something I didn't fully understand myself, made me stop. "Valerie?" She looked up surprised. "Eleanor." We stood there, with our shopping carts, in the middle of the cereal aisle. "How are you?" I asked. It wasn't a polite question. It was genuine. "Bad," she answered, with an honesty that surprised me. "Very bad." "I'm sorry." "Really?" "Yes, because even though you hurt me deeply, I don't find joy in seeing you suffer." Her eyes filled with tears. "I don't know how I got here. I don't know at what point I became this. Valerie, can I tell you something?" She nodded. "You weren't born bad, but you let yourself be consumed by selfishness, by appearances, by the fear of losing control, and that turned you into someone cruel."
I know, and now I'm paying for it. You're not paying. You're learning. The question is, what are you going to do with that lesson? Valerie wiped her tears with the back of her hand. I don't know. I feel so lost. When I felt lost, I sought help. I went to therapy. I surrounded myself with people who truly cared about me. I started over. And you think I can do that? I think that's up to you. But I'll tell you one thing. To start over, you first have to acknowledge the damage you caused, not justify it, not minimize it. Acknowledge it. Valerie looked me in the eyes. I hurt you so much, Eleanor, and I'm sorry. I know that doesn't change anything. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I am truly sorry. It was the first time I had ever heard her apologize. Thank you for saying that. Will you ever be able to forgive me? I don't know, maybe one day. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean we will ever be family again. I understand. We stood in silence for a moment. Valerie, I wish you the best. I really do. I hope you find the peace that I found. But that peace, you have to build it yourself. No one else can do it for you. She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. Take care, Eleanor. You too. I kept walking down the aisle, and when I got to the checkout, I felt light, because I had chosen not to carry resentment. I had chosen peace over revenge. Months later, Sharon, my friend, told me something she heard at the beauty salon. Eleanor, did you hear Valerie left the city? Really? Yes. Apparently, after the divorce, she moved in with her mom in another state. People say she's working in a coffee shop, nothing like her old life. And how is she? They say she's calm, more humble. She doesn't show off anymore. She doesn't talk about anyone. She just works and lives her life. I became thoughtful. Maybe that's what she needed, to lose everything, to find herself. Sharon looked at me with admiration. You are very wise, you know that. I'm not wise. I'm just a woman who learned that karma isn't revenge. It's balance. As for Stephen, our relationship continued to heal, slowly, with patience, with clear boundaries, but also with love. One day he invited me to dinner at his house. It was the first time I had been back since that Christmas Eve. When I arrived, the children ran to hug me. Grandma, we made your favorite food. Really? Yes, Dad taught us how to make your green enchiladas. I laughed, my heart swelling with happiness. During dinner, Stephen raised his glass. I'd like to make a toast. We all looked at him. To my mom, for teaching me the hardest lesson of my life, for not giving up when I abandoned her, for being the example of strength and dignity that I hope to one day equal. Tears blurred my vision. And for teaching me that true love includes boundaries, that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and that it is never ever too late to start over. We clinked our glasses. To family, I said, the one we choose to build every day, with respect, with love, and with honesty. That night before I left, Sarah pulled on my arm. Grandma, come. I want to show you something. She took me to the living room, and there, on the mantel, was my clay nativity scene, the one Valerie had donated. How? Dad went to the church. He spoke to the priest. He explained everything, and the priest gave it back to him. I touched the figures with trembling hands. My mother had given them to me, and now they were back. Dad said this was always yours, and he wants you to have it here, in this house, so you remember that this is your house too, whenever you want to come. I broke down. I hugged my granddaughter, and I cried. But not from sadness, from gratitude. Valerie's karma was not my revenge. It was her own reflection. She lost everything she valued, her image, her marriage, her social circle, her control, and in that loss, she had the chance to find herself. I don't know if she succeeded. That's something only she can answer. But what I do know is this. Life always collects its debts, not with cruelty, but with balance. And those who hurt without mercy
will eventually be hurt by their own actions, not because someone is punishing them, but because that is how the universe works. A year after the trial, Megan invited me to give a talk at a community center. "Eleanor, there are so many older women who are living in abusive situations, and they need to hear your story. They need to know they can fight back." "I'm not good at public speaking." "You don't have to be. You just have to be honest." I agreed. The day of the talk, there were more than 50 women in the room. Some were my age, others were older, all with tired eyes, all carrying silent stories. I stood in front of the microphone, and I told them everything, from beginning to end. When I finished, a woman raised her hand. "Mrs. Benson, do you think you did the right thing suing your own family?" "Yes, because I wasn't suing my family. I was defending myself from abuse, and that is always the right thing." Another woman asked, "And aren't you afraid of being alone?" "I was alone when I lived with them. Now, I am accompanied. Because I have myself, and because I chose to surround myself with people who value me." An older lady stood up and said with a trembling voice, "My daughter treats me the same way your daughter-in-law treated you, but I'm afraid to say anything. She's my daughter." I walked over to her. "Ma'am, love doesn't hurt, and blood does not justify abuse. If your daughter is hurting you, you deserve to defend yourself, and there are people who can help you." Megan walked over and gave her her card. At the end of the talk, more than 20 women asked for legal advice. 20 women who decided to no longer stay silent. And in that moment, I understood something. My story wasn't just mine, it was theirs. And if my pain could help even one woman find her voice, then it was all worth it. It's been 2 years since that Christmas Eve. 2 years in which I learned that life after 65 isn't the end. It's the beginning of something new, something nobody tells you when you're young. That true freedom comes when you stop living to please others. Today, I am 67 years old, and I am happier than I have been in decades. My apartment became my sanctuary. Every corner has something of mine, photographs of my parents, my favorite books, the plants I care for, the clay nativity scene I recovered, stored with love in a wooden box for next December. Every morning I wake up without being startled, without fear, without that anxiety that was my companion for years. I make my coffee slowly savoring every sip. I go for a walk in the park. I greet my neighbors. I live. I simply live. And it is enough. My relationship with Stephen improved more than I thought possible. We see each other once a week, sometimes at my place, sometimes at his. We have breakfast together. We talk about everything, about life, about work, about the kids. There is no more tension, no more unsaid words, because we built something new on the ruins of what was broken. One day during one of our breakfasts, he said, "Mom, I've been thinking, I want Sarah and David to know exactly what happened. I don't want them to grow up without understanding why you left and why you came back." "Are you sure they're still very young? They're 10 and 12. They're not babies anymore, and they deserve to know the truth, a truth adapted to their age, but the truth." "And what will you tell them?" "That I made a very serious mistake, that I hurt the person who loved me most in this world, and that thanks to you, I learned that true love includes respect boundaries and dignity." He took my hand, and that their grandmother is the bravest woman I know. Sarah and David now spend 2 weekends a month with me. My house fills with laughter, games, and conversations that fill my soul. I teach them to cook my mother's recipes. I tell them stories from when their dad was a boy, and they tell me their dreams. One Saturday afternoon, while we were making cookies, Sarah asked me, "Grandma, is it true that my mom treated you badly?" I froze. "Who told you that?" "Dad. He told us everything. Well, not everything, but he told us she made you feel bad and that he didn't defend you," David added with his serious voice. "Dad cried when he told us." I sat with them at the kitchen table. "Yes, my loves, it's true. There was a time when I didn't feel welcome in that house, and that hurt me very much. And that's why you left." "I left because I needed to take care of myself, because sometimes, when someone hurts you very much, the bravest thing you can do is walk away." Sarah hugged me. I'm never going to hurt you, Grandma. I promise. I know, my sweetie, and if one day by accident you do, I want you to know that you can ask for forgiveness, and I will always be willing to listen. As for Valerie, I've heard very little about her these past 2 years. Only what Stephen tells me occasionally, that she's still living in another state, that she works in a bookstore, that she started therapy, that the kids see her once every 2 months. But the visits are tense, Stephen told me. She doesn't know how to connect with them. It's like she forgot how to be a mother. Maybe she never knew how, I replied without malice. Some people aren't born to be parents, and that doesn't make them bad, just incomplete. Stephen looked at me sadly. Do you think she'll ever find peace? I hope so. Because holding on to that much anger, that much resentment, it's a prison, and nobody deserves to live like that forever. My life also filled with new friendships. The women from the community center became my second family. We meet every Tuesday for coffee and to share stories. Some, like me, had faced abuse. Others just wanted company. We all found in that group something the world had denied us: to be seen, heard, valued. One of them, Beatrice, had told me one day, "Eleanor, you saved all of us." Me, how? Because you showed us that it's possible, that you can fight back, that you can start over. I had been putting up with my son-in-law's insults for 10 years, and thanks to your story, I found the courage to set boundaries. And what happened? He respected them, because he finally understood that I was not a doormat. I smiled. Then I didn't save you. You saved yourself. I just showed you the path. 3 months ago, I received a letter. It was from Valerie. When I saw her name on the return address, my first instinct was to throw it in the trash, but something stopped me. I opened it, and this is what it said. Dear Eleanor, I don't know if you will read this letter. I don't know if you should, but I need to write it anyway. I have spent the last 2 years trying to understand how I became the person I was, the person who hurt you so much, and the truth is, I don't have a clear answer. I grew up believing that success was measured in appearances, in having the perfect house, the perfect family, the perfect life, and when you came to my house, I felt like you were ruining that perfection. But I was wrong. You didn't ruin anything. I ruined everything. I lost my husband. I lost my children, who barely speak to me now. I lost my friends. I lost my reputation, and I lost it all because I didn't know how to value what I had. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to answer this letter. I don't expect anything. I just want you to know that I am sorry, that every day I carry the guilt of what I did to you, and that if I could go back in time, I would do everything differently, but I can't. So all I can do is learn from my errors and try to be a better person, even if it's too late. I hope you are well. I hope you are happy, because you deserve to be. With respect, Valerie. I read the letter 3 times, and I cried. Not from sadness, from release, because in those words, I felt something I had never felt from Valerie: honesty. I didn't write back, not because I wanted to punish her, but because I had nothing to say. She was on her own journey, her own path, and I was no longer part of that path. I put the letter in a drawer, and I moved on. Last week, Megan called me. Eleanor, I need to tell you something. What's wrong? Do you remember Ms. Carmen, the lady from the nursing home, the one Valerie took care of during her community service? Yes, of course. She passed away a few days ago. Oh dear. And her daughter never came. She died alone, Eleanor, waiting for a visit that never arrived. The silence between us was heavy. But, Megan continued, there's something else. When they went through her belongings, they found a letter addressed to Valerie. Really? Yes. And in that letter, Miss Carmen thanked her for listening. She said that in those months of community service, Valerie was the only person who made her feel seen, and that she hoped Valerie would learn from her story so she wouldn't repeat her mistakes. I got a lump in my throat. Does Valerie know? Yes, she went to the funeral, and she cried like I've never seen anyone cry. Sometimes karma isn't a punishment. It's a mirror. It shows you exactly what you sowed, and it gives you the chance to change. Whether you take it or not is your decision. Today, as I write these words in my journal, I think about everything I lived through, the pain, the humiliation, the lonely nights. But I also think about the strength I found, the dignity I recovered, the peace I now have, and I realize something. I am not angry. I hold no resentment, because I learned that resentment is a poison that only poisons the person who carries it, and I chose to let it go. If you are listening to this story and you identify with it, if you too have been treated like a burden in your own family, if you too have felt that you are no longer needed, I want you to know this. You matter. Your life didn't end just because you got older. Your story isn't over just because your children grew up. You still have a voice, you still have rights, you still have value, and if anyone makes you feel otherwise, they are the ones who are wrong, not you. A few days ago, Sarah asked me, "Grandma, if you could go back in time, what would you change?" I thought for a long time before answering. Nothing, my love. Nothing, not even the bad parts. Not even those. Because the bad parts taught me to be strong. They taught me to value myself. They taught me that self-love is more important than anything else. And don't you miss how things were before? Sometimes. But then I remember that before, I wasn't happy. I was just pretending to be. Sarah hugged me. I want to be like you when I grow up, Grandma. Like me. Yes, brave, strong, and truly happy. This morning, while watering my plants, I looked at myself in the hallway mirror, and I saw a woman I didn't recognize, not because I had changed physically, but because the look in her eyes was different. There was no more sadness. There was no more fear, just peace and gratitude. If my story reached you, if you read this far, if something I said resonated in your heart, then I want to ask you for something. Do not stay silent. Do not accept abuse. Do not think that just because you are older, you no longer deserve respect. Because you do. Today, tomorrow, and always. And if someone makes you feel small, invisible, insignificant, remember my story and stand up, just like I did. Thank you for listening to the end. Thank you for letting me share my story. Thank you for seeing in me, not just a victim, but a survivor. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs it. Sometimes a story like this can change a whole day, or a whole life. Subscribe and hit the bell to hear more stories of women who transformed their pain into wisdom. Every day, a woman, a life lesson. May God bless you. And remember, it's never too late to start over. It's never too late to reclaim your dignity. It's never too late to be happy. My name is Eleanor Benson. I am 67 years old, and this is my story, a story of pain, justice, and rebirth. And if I could do it, so can you.